The West African Examination Council has officially released the results of the May-June 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination. The announcement was made during a media briefing at WAEC National Headquarters in Lagos. Now, according to the head of National Office, Dr. Amos Dangut, the May-June 2025 West African Senior School Examination saw a 33.8% decrease in candidates' performance this year, reiterating no significant changes in overall student performance compared to previous years. In spite of challenges faced by WAEC, such as logistics, anti-cheating measures, among others, the Council is gearing up to introducing more.
The Council, in line with the directive of the Federal Government of Nigeria, is concluding arrangement for the total conduct of examination by computer in 2026 across the country. The CB examination, otherwise known as CB WASSCE, will also follow the pattern for that of PC2 2025. Of the percentage of candidates in this category in WASSCE for school candidates examination 2024 and 2025 revealed that in this year there is 33.8% decrease in performance. 33.8% decrease in performance. That is, those who obtain credit and above in a minimum of 5 subjects, including English, language, and mathematics.
Now, here's the statistics for the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination results. A total of 1,973,365 candidates registered for the examination, with 1,969,313 candidates participating from 23,554 recognized secondary schools across Nigeria. Now, 77.06% of candidates had their results fully released, while 22.94% of candidates have one or more results pending. 38.23% have credits in 5 subjects, including English and mathematics, compared to the 2024 figure of 72.12%, indicating a 33.8% decline. The results of 192,089 candidates, representing 9.75% of the total number of candidates who sat for the examination, were withdrawn due to various reported cases of examination malpractice. Also, the last 4 years have been a whole lot of exceptional until now. In 2021, 81.70% of candidates achieved the benchmark. In 2022, 76.36% of candidates achieved the benchmark, showing a 5.34% decline from 2021. 2023, we had 79.81% achieving the benchmark, indicating a 3.45% increase from 2022. In 2024, 72.12% of candidates achieved the benchmark, marking a 7.69% decline from 2023. And now in 2025, 38.32% of candidates achieved the benchmark, representing a significant 33.8% decline from 2024, a notable drop in performance. Education consultant, Professor Yomi Fawehinmi, joins me now for this discussion. Thank you very much for being here. 33.8% decrease in performance is not good enough. I actually took time to look at the figures that the producer shared with us. What do you attribute this decline to?
Okay, thanks for having me again. Another conversation about education. we have a drop from 72% last year to 38% this year. So we're talking about over 33% drop. And your question is, what do we attribute? I don't think there's one single factor we could attribute, but I think it's an issue for concern. If 33%, if you have a 33% drop in a 1 year performance, and if you also check the history of the performance, in this case, we're dealing with those that have 5 credits, including English and Maths. If you actually check the trend in the last 10 years, this is the worst result in the last 10 years. If you remember the last conversation, one of the conversations we had when the first JAMB result was also brought out, I also shared data to show that the JAMB result for this year was the worst in about 4, 5, 6 years. So we have had a significant situation where we have had worse performances compared to previous years. And you will expect that those kind of conversations or those kind of data should make us start to look critically at why we are getting the results we have. In the case of JAMB, it was clear that the reason was because JAMB itself came up and agreed it had some errors. Because when JAMB corrected the errors and people had to write the exams again, they did better than the previous one. But do we say it's the same thing that happened in WAEC? I don't know yet as of now. Do I think it's an emergency that somebody needs to answer a question for? It's important to do that. But it's also important to mention the fact that there is information that showed that the WAEC made some changes this year. They made changes in what they call the core subject, math, English, biology, and a couple of subjects in terms of the objective questions. And the real deviation that made the drop happen was not in the practical examination, it wasn't in the theory examination, it was in the objective type question exam. That's where the difference came. That is what now explains why almost 1 million candidates failed to get credit in English and Maths. So JAMB made some changes, and part of the question we need to start to ask at this point is that, were those changes communicated to students in good time? Were the students aware? Did the change go through an effective change management process? Were students prepared? Because if you check it, for subjects like biology, physics, agricultural science, there is objective, there is theory, and there is practical. The results from practical is consistent with the previous years. The results from theory is consistent with the previous years. The only one that fell significantly short is objective, and that is why WAEC make changes. So the question we ask is that, do those changes reveal something deeper than we have? JAMB quickly came up and said, well, it's because students cannot cheat. And you know, one of the very unfortunate things about all that has happened with all these examination results this year is the first thing is the students were not allowed to cheat. I think it's a very, very unfortunate way to respond to issues that once you have
don't you think we should, I'm sorry to interject, but the important I raise is, don't you think coming from the experience with JAMB, and now that we have a scenario where even WAEC acknowledged there was poor organization on the day they wrote the English paper, for instance, are we not making students pay for the inefficiencies of the examination body? And shouldn't there be, from that experience of JAMB, checks and balances to ensure that these failings are not just the students, that the WAEC will have their own responsibility as well?
Great question, as always. But the question to ask you is that when the results of JAMB first came out, the Minister of Education came out to say that was the best exam. That was the same exam that a couple of days back, the registrar of JAMB came out to cry on national TV and admitted they made error. The Minister for Education said it was the best exam. I mean, so the exam that we had to rewrite, the exam that a student committed suicide on, was what the Minister for Education said was the best exam. So when the registrar of JAMB came and apologized and all of that, what was the consequence? There was no consequence. And that was why I wasn't surprised when we had the glitch with the English exam where people were writing the exams with lamp at 6 p.m. There are about 2 or 3 court cases where people have argued, gone to court to say that was a violation of the rights of those students. And today, the data shows people fail that subject significantly more than before. Well, the question is again is that you're going to hear the Minister for Education get invited or the head of WAEC get invited to come and talk about it. And they're going to just lay the blame that, oh, what happened is that we did not allow students to cheat. That's why we have this result. So question is, how does that become your conclusion over this? I am not saying whether students cheated or no, but that cannot be your sole conclusion for a multifaceted problem. Could there be problems with language? Could there be problems with the question? Could there be problems? We already know there were logistics problems. Over a million, I'm trying to remember the exact figure, over 1.5, over one, the difference between those that have 5 credits and those that have 5 credits in English and math was almost 1 million. So that means over 1 million people did not pass either English or mathematics. And you had a significant logistic problem on English. We know that for a fact. The WAEC person came out to tell us what happened and all of that. So if there was a logistics problem that made people write exams till 11 p.m. and they now failed, and you now claim is that you didn't allow them to cheat. They wrote the exams. We saw it on TV. They wrote the exam with lamps, with torchlights, with candles. So how can you say it is because you didn't allow them to cheat?
Yeah, Prof, as much as we're holding the regulatory bodies accountable and the government, what have we failed to do either as parents or guardians that has led to this continued decline in examination outcome? And what do you think can be done on that end to improve things?
Again, thanks. Good question. I mean, we just need to double up our work, either as parents or as teachers, as school owners, as mentors and friends of these young people to get them to do more. It's important for us to ensure that they are learning and they're able to write the exam. I'm not one of the side people that will quickly say the problem, because for everybody, I mean, the number of people that came and said it's because they are playing too much. I mean, and you know, this is an unfortunate thing we do to young people. We always look for a reason to blame them. A couple of days back, Assistant Oshola, one of the players of the Super Falcons, said, one of the managers of the NFF, one of the female managers, came to them and said, oh, you got to take it more serious, that because people are complaining you spend too much time on TikTok, it could affect your performance. They won the trophy, despite being on TikTok. Adults need to stop blaming children for everything. The reason why we are adults is that we have responsibilities to help these people to succeed. We should stop breaking their hearts. Think about this. When we say 38-point-something% got 5 credits, including English and math, what that means is that in over 62% of homes in Nigeria in the next couple of days, they're going to experience something because their child will not be able to go to the university. There's going to be sadness, there's going to be disappointment. God forbid we have another case of suicide. Because
hopefully we don't have that. I think at the heart of your submission is stopping the blame game from parents and them taking better responsibilities when it comes to, you know, the education of the younger one. But quickly, before we go, at a time when the world is talking STEM and even AI-assisted education, do you think we're leveraging technology as much as we should to boost education and academic outcome for our students here in Nigeria? Also, what are your fears about that? Because we had the experience from mechanical failure that got students to suffer unnecessarily.
You know, since I'm laughing, I mean, every time I have to talk about education and people talk about AI, and I'm like, a country where the average child that is less than 15-year-old is struggling with numeracy should not talk about AI. A country where the data that shows we have between 15 and 20 million students out of school, AI is important, and AI is something that we should put somewhere, and great work by all those talking about it. But we have more basic fundamental problems. Now, AI can help us to solve the problem. Technology can help us to solve the problem because we can get all those 15 million, 20 million children to get access to education using technology quicker. So for me, I think what we should start to think about in Nigeria is how do we use technology and AI to ensure the basic level of education of those not in school, of those not learning, they are able to learn. Not the big part. We have a problem with the roots. Let's not talk about STEM. or root or trees. It's a root problem we are dealing with.
We should take our time with that and focus on other priorities. I hear you loud and clear, Prof. Thank you so much for speaking with us and sparing the time.